Hey, Bob, you want to take the A train?
No.
Caleb, how about the Metrolink?
No.
Adam, the Amtrak?
I'd rather not.
All right, well, let's take the Coltrane.
Let's.
And
you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Music explored.
Explored, brought to you today by Open Studio. Go to openstudiojazz.com for all your jazz lesson needs. What's up, Peter?
That was a lot.
It was too much.
How you doing?
The story of my life. Too much. I'm doing okay.
Good,
I'm doing
good,
okay. Yeah.
Good.
It's an interesting time. It's been fun.
We pray to live in interesting times.
We certainly do.
I'm so excited about today's episode.
Me too.
We have the new format, the new season, and this is the first time we're going to fold 3 albums together, all within the year of 1963.
Buddy, we could have done 13 albums all folded together from this year. 1963, one of the most underrated years in music history. Incredible year. Go look up all the jazz records that got released in 1963. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, we're just concentrating on John Coltrane, but we have some illustrious co-stars along with Mr. Coltrane. Of course, he's already into his classic quartet years, Jimmy Garrison, Elvin Jones, McCoy Tyner.
Incredible.
But there's going to be a Johnny Hartman sighting. There's going to be a Duke Ellington sighting, even a Sam Woodyard sighting.
Excellent.
Know about that. Yeah.
You know what I think is what's great about the albums you've picked and the tunes you picked for this episode is that, like, if you've tried some John Coltrane before, but maybe he wasn't quite your thing, or you haven't ever gotten the opportunity to get into John Coltrane's music, because it can be very intense.
Yes.
Right? Especially if you dive in on something like Giant Steps or the later live Vanguard sessions, it can be very intense. But this is like one of the greatest artists of his generation, doing some incredibly accessible, romantic, dare I say?
Smooth, dare I say?
I thought that term category.
Yeah.
It's just it goes to how grounded he was as a human being and as a person, because he can make music for like any person on the planet, and I think like reach into their souls with what he does. It's really a special time for a special person.
Yeah. And I mean, look, we're going to be looking at 3 records. We have a playlist, a bespoked playlist of 6 songs.
We were told we can't say that in 2025.
6 tracks, 2 from each of the albums, but it's John Coltrane ballads, Johnny Hartman and John Coltrane.
Incredible album.
And Duke Ellington and John Coltrane. These were all released in 1963 on the Impulse Jazz record.
All 3
label.
In 1 year.
Yeah.
All released in 1 year. All 3.
And he released a couple others too.
I know. He a few others.
Yeah.
And he's on a couple of others for other artists. Yeah. And it's just like an incredible time. All 3 of these are bangers.
Yeah. And
all 3 are all-timers.
Yeah. And I think there's a connection between all of these because they're all primarily ballads, not all ballads, but primarily ballads. They're all, I mean, I would say in the most positive sense of the term, commercially viable, palatable, populist, perhaps even.
100%.
These are, I think, great access points into, like we say, we're trying to turn the Coltrane-curious into the Coltrane-converted. You know what I mean? And a lot of times people talk about Giant Steps. Giant Steps is great, but that's really a thing for nerds, right? That belongs in the nerd nook more than anything else.
You really missed an opportunity here for Coltrane-curious
to
Coltrane-purist.
Lush-Curious.
Like you could have linked that up.
That's
but we'll fix it in post.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just to say that like these are not, and I really think, hopefully we're gonna be able to show today too, that John Coltrane, like his lyricism, the beauty of his sound was such a foundation. It's not just all the crazy stuff that he played that he's known for. If you listen to Live at the Vanguard, well, the Impressions record, which is from Live at the Vanguard, that came out this and was recorded this same year. Yeah. It's a whole nother way of playing in a way, but hopefully we're going to show some connections. So I thought it'd be fun to just take things back a little bit. Wewe're not going to go all the way back to the very beginning of Coltrane, but we're going to go back to 1957. This is only 6 years before 63, obviously, if my math is correct, sir.
Yeah,
I am a pianist, so, there's that. But this is, you can look at Coltrane as different. There was the Coltrane playing with Monk, and then Coltrane playing with Miles, and then he came back to Monk, and then he went back to Miles. So there's those two connections and that cross-pollination. But this is Ruby, My Dear, of course, composition of Thelonious Monk's. This is from 1957, Coltrane and Monk. Already hearing that beautiful tone, that lyrical and poignant approach to the melody, the vibrato. And I mean, such incredible playing,
just one little simple melody like that. I mean, it really, that demonstrates, I think, why people are so attracted to Coltrane, but also Monk. It's like, you can hear in just those first few notes, in that first phrase, you can hear like this is going to sound really grandiose and maybe kind of stupid, but you can hear the truth. Like you can hear someone who's cutting through to the truth. Who's like,
there's a purity to it, right?
We're getting away from frivolity,
yes,
and getting away from any other BS that we're going to add to the music. I just want what matters.
Just give me facts,
what no, I mean, it's not even just like, there's a lot of raw beauty in it. It's just like, let's get to the point with this, and like, let's do this the way that human beings recognize each other in this incredibly raw, like pure way, this like person to person way.
Yeah.
Better than anybody.
Yeah.
Cutting.
And I mean, I think that's,
and Monk is there too.
Well, and I think Monk very much in his music, his compositional style lends itself to that. We could say that Coltrane learned some of that, from being in that situation, certainly with Miles too. But, Coltrane's like 29, 30 years old. He's still pretty young at this point. The next year, 1958, this is one of his most famous tracks and famous compositions, Blue Train, Blue Note Records. And I just want to, after one more chorus, to get a little bit into the solo.
We should do Blue Train at some point.
Yeah. But a lot of times people point towards this as being the best entry point to Trane. And I would only say, yes, it's a great record, but check out the way he's soloing on here compared to what we're going to listen to today. Jumping in there, right? It's dance, it's bluesy. It's got some like interwoven bebop stuff in it.
It's the greatest, man.
Yeah.
Just the greatest.
But if that was your first time coming in to hear Trane, it might be a little bit jarring, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what we were talking about in the setup, is like, if like, oh yeah, Blue Train, it's a beautiful sounding record, of course, and like the arrangements with the horns are beautiful. But yeah, you're right. It could be a little jarring if you haven't heard that kind of music before.
Yeah, but he had different sides to him. So just 1 year later, this is, of course, Blue and Green from Kind of Blue, Miles Davis.
It just stops in your tracks. It
really does. It sounds like a written out solo or like it's its own tune, or something.
It kind of resets you
a
little bit, doesn't it?
And then from the same record, same year, 1959, is of course Freddie Freeloader.
I mean, we could go through all of Trane's solo.
We're about to.
Okay.
No, we're not. This is the only other one. But again, here.
One of the greatest moments in musical history, man.
It's arresting, right? I mean, it just like grabs a hold of you, right?
Well, because Wynton's solo and Miles is solo up to this point.
So different, man.
In the pocket, grooving pretty even.
Right.
Comes and is like, again, we're cutting straight through.
Cutting straight through. But there's a purity. I mean, that's like Coltrane's hallmark, right? A directness, a purity, but a beauty.
Nothing
nuance.
cute about it.
No. But again, if you're not ready for this, you're like, whoa. And then, of course, a year later, 1960.
Now, this is for music nerds.
Yeah, this is, and this is so great. But again, like if you're like, oh, I want to get into jazz, John Coltrane Giant Steps, You're like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. What's a major third?
I mean, there's a beauty and a symmetry here and a logic that I think that the everyday listener can connect with, but it's a lot to grab hold on to, especially the solo. This is not what's it, Amis Bouche? This is like the end of the main chorus at the 12th.
Heavy shit.
Yeah. So that's kind of, sort of leading up. And then, Coltrane, 61, 62. Actually, he kind of had another period where, he was using Eric Dolphy, another horn player.
Two bass players
a lot of times, and got into some really, this is impressions from the vanguard in that period.
Same year, right? 63?
This is actually came out in 63, but I think this is 62 they recorded it. And like this whole way of playing, like less approachable for sure, but beautiful, right? Anyway, so all this stuff is great. It's all sort of part of the lineage, and it's just over a few years. But when we get to 1963, and we're going to look at and listen first to My One and Only Love, which is from John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman, wonderful vocalists. This is written by Guy Wood and Robert Mellon, My One and Only Love.
This album and the Ballads album are also great, a recording example of McCoy Tyner at his best.
Yes. Oh, so it's so
pianist good. McCoy Tyner.
Yep. And Elvin Jones, who's such an architect on these records, isn't even come in yet. Like this arrangement is fantastic. And this is kind of, the iconic version of this tune. Simple ballad tempo without the drums. Jimmy Garrison, half notes.
McCoy playing every quarter note, basically.
Yeah. Hinting at the double time, right? But Trane is very much still just beautifully stating the melody, pretty much just right on. Fermata.
Amazing. Beautiful.
And then this is one of the all-time great setups.
Yep.
Very simple over the 5. Elvin with the brushes.
The very thought of you.
Man, how can you not sing great with that setup right?
Makes my heart sing.
Anybody got a cigarette?
Like an April breeze.
This is beautiful, romantic.
Of spring.
Johnny Hartman.
Oh, and McCoy is like super busy with his comping, but it all works.
Your splendor.
Everything in my
where-
bank account. I get everything in my bank account to be able to sing like that.
This is where actually one of my Quibble Bits, RVG, might come in handy with this mix. Because of how much, McCoy's playing.
I know it's not great for the pianist, but it
I mean, that
works.
brush, that snare drum, you can't record that anymore.
The voice.
Jimmy Garrison, everybody, Coltrane.
I feel your lips so warm.
So yeah, I mean, this one's just, that's a sort of legendary track. So I'm starting the playlist out with that. Because I feel like if you've never listened to Coltrane, if you're Coltrane-curious, and you come in and listen to that and you're like, that's not for me, then you know what? I don't really have a lot more. I'm not going to throw giant steps at you, and you're going to be like,
start there. Start with My Own Love. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. So, and then, talking about McCoy Tyner solos, this isn't even one of the tracks on there, but I've got You Are Too Beautiful, another great ballad on this same record. Check out McCoy's solo.
You are too beautiful. And I am a fool.
And how he comes out of the melody on this, and they go into the other feel.
For beauty.
Hey. This is where me and Rudy have problems.
Ooh,
come on.
Cascading. But that subtle Elvin.
Peak McCoy?
Maybe.
I think early 60s is peak McCoy.
Yeah.
I know everybody loves the real McCoy, but this era. Come on.
And Elvin and Jimmy Garrison's support on this. So perfect. This is kind of a low-key, kind of a perfect solo. I'm gonna throw that out there. Anyway, that's not even one of the tracks, but I just wanted to kind of throw that in there for you.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to the next tune on the playlist. This is from the Ballads record. So it's all instrumental, fantastic record. This is a little bit lesser known. Harry Warren, Great American Songbook composition, I Wish I Knew. And I love, there's something that happens in here. I want you to confirm this. It should be done in the nerd note.
I cannot confirm nor deny.
I think there's an open studio moo happening in here.
I wonder if that's what they called it. I wonder if it was marked that in the chart. Just
now, how Trane
hitting it out of the park
here.
every time, McCoy.
They just come right in on the time.
It's high level.
Yeah. Trane's leaving a lot of space for McCoy.
Crazy. It's crazy how good it is.
Yeah.
It's how beautiful.
And then he comes out of this Lydian. Oh. This next phrase, the way he approaches. Okay, listen for the move.
I think he might have moved.
I think he moved there.
I think he might have moved a little bit. You know what's so great about the premise of this for you, for your this episode here is like, if you're new to jazz, right?
Yeah.
You are expecting to hear stuff like this. Like this
Right.
is the kind of thing you want to hear. You know what I mean? And this delivers, but again in a way that is so soulful and so honest.
Yeah.
Right? That it's like it's deeper than coffee house, some BS coffee house Spotify.
I can see you even
Dude,
like back. Can I even say that?
I don't
want to
say it in the presence of Trane's music. You know what I mean?
Right, but it's like that's just a cheap rip-off caricature of like some kind of like all it gets is like the visuals of it. But this is the thing. Like you want a jazz club vibe. You want to be sophisticated.
Yeah.
It's no problem that you haven't got it yet in your life. Now's your time. But you come in with this. There's so many layers there. You know, come for the beauty, stay for the mood chord.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
It's like there's so much cool stuff. I can tell you, having listened to these records over and over again, it's like, you know, there's a lot of great movies out there, but there's not that many movies that what you could watch over and over and over and still be discovering things.
Something you might call like a rewatchable.
Rewatchable kind of movie. Exactly. Now, a lot of this stuff, you know, is very atmospheric, romantic, even cinematic. And I think this next track, a lot of folks will recognize it directly from the introduction. One of the most iconic piano rhythm section introductions ever.
The greatest.
The great Duke Ellington. This has been in a lot of movies. Famously, Love Jones. It's in a sentimental mood. Oh, the crunchiness, man. Elvin.
Everything Elvin's doing here.
Yeah.
Just like the swishiness of the hi-hats,
Yeah.
cymbals going.
Yeah, it's like you're viewing, it's like you're seeing it in a blur, a little bit of a fog, and then there's like this clarity of the other part, you know, the melody
Yeah.
and this orchestral thing that,
This is the greatest, man. This
Yeah.
album, Duke Ellington and John Coltrane, is the greatest. This
Yeah.
is what we played at the top. The Take the Coltrane is from this as well.
exactly.
Woo, so good.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very much too like along the lines of on these three records, you know, Johnny Hartman, John Coltrane, Duke Ellington, John Coltrane, and Ballads, you know, mostly Great American Songbook, but then a few of these, which I would really consider straddling the line between Great American Songbook and greatest jazz compositions of all time. Like, is In a Sentimental Mood? That's Great American Songbook, right?
It's a jazz standard.
Right. And Lush Life, probably the greatest standard, in my opinion, ever written.
100%.
You know, by Billy Strayhorn, My Little Brown Book.
Correct take on that.
Yeah. And
Lush
like
Life is the best.
Coltrane, like the way they're put together. And shout out Bob Thiel, who produced every one of these records. I mean, he was the head of Impulse all through the 60s, you know, after
Impulse
Creed Taylor left.
Crushing it in this era.
Yeah. Everything's recorded at Rudy Van Gelder Studios, all these records, and all released in 1963. I mean, just like
Bad for pianists, great for everybody else.
right.
Everybody else sounds amazing.
Exactly. Speaking of Lush Life, that's actually track number 4. We might get through all the tracks on this playlist, which we rarely do. Should we listen to a little bit of that?
Please.
Okay. Oh,
I know.
I used to visit
okay.
all the
Let's just talk about this. Might be the most concise, greatest piano intro.
How come
ever.
I can't resonate like that?
If McCoy was here, you'd be able to. But just check this out.
I'd be.
Bling.
I used
There
to
you go.
visit all
Just the
very
facts.
gay places, those come what may places,
What?
where one relaxes on the axis of the wheel of life to get the feel
Man,
of
I don't know what McCoy just played there, but
from jazz and cocktails. The
Billy
girls
Strayhorn,
I knew
16 when he
had
wrote this?
sass
Yeah.
and sullen gray faces
The words and the
with
music.
distant K traces
distingue.
that used to be there. You could see where they'd been washed away.
The way
by
McCoy's
too
walking
much
with him, ahead, behind, and with.
12 o'clock tale.
Mm.
Then you came along.
So this is just an incredible
with
thing.
your
Check the whole thing out.
siren
We have a link to the
song.
playlist. I wanted just to jump ahead to John Coltrane's solo. Although, am I getting ahead of myself? This might be... Oh, no, it's not on my Apex moments. There's so many Apex moments. That's good. I didn't have it. I want to just play Trane solo because the transition going in is one of the most genius Elvin moments
by the way,
of all time.
where can people hear all this? We got a playlist for them?
We have a playlist on a little thing, a little startup we are helping out, Spotify.
Check out the show notes where you can go to the bespoke playlist from our own Peter Martin on this.
I think I got a pretty good order on
this year
too.
of John Coltrane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is further along in Lush Life. Once they're already in the time.
Stifling those.
This is one of my apex moments, actually, the end of Lush Life.
Yeah. Well, this is actually before the Trane solo. But the end is incredible, too.
In some small dive, and there I'll be while I rock
that
with
chord.
the rest of
But check out how Elvin
whose lives are
percolates and affects the transition here. Oh. Driving. Train.
How much 20th century music owes to these moments from Trane?
Train.
Man, you know how much? So much 20th century music owes to moments like that on all of these recordings.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And these are just a few. I mean, there's always, cool, great moments. But if every moment is great, then nothing is special. You know what I mean?
I don't think that's how that works. I don't think that's...
But that's the fun. That's what I'm talking about. The layers.
It's not a
on these
zero-sum
records.
moment-wise.
No, but I mean, there's all these little things you can kind of start to go in and pick out your favorites, which is really fun. Yeah, so I mean, that's Lush Life. Of course, Billy Strayhorn's probably the most famous composition outside of Take the A Train. But this next tune, which is from, actually, which one of these is this from? Oh, it's from the Duke Ellington. So they start to all become one record after a while. But this is another Billy Strayhorn, lesser known, but I think one of his greatest tunes, My Little Brown Book. Duke Ellington on piano, of course. I believe this is Sam Woodyard on drums here. And Aaron Bell.
Come on.
Let's swing. Let's just subtly. Let's just lay back.
Nobody make any sudden moves.
No, come on.
It's just...
Come on. We're grown folks. We're just here.
That is a grown person's moment. Amazing, man. I keep saying amazing because I'm just amazed every time. Like, there's no other artist that hits me as hard as John Coltrane.
Yeah.
Every single time.
And this is what I'm saying. All he's doing is playing the melody.
No, but there's something,
you know what I mean?
Like I said, there's an earned honesty that happens in his playing, in his tone, in his phrasing, in his choices.
Yeah.
That is, it's so inspiring.
Like, there's a lot of other stuff that he can and does do sometimes, but on these records, he's really just, he's just doing his thing. Well, talking about just, lyricism, beauty in the tone, I found this little excerpt. There's only a couple of interviews, audio of John Coltrane, amazingly. I couldn't even find any video interviews, but check out in his own words in this little snippet from a 1960 interview.
On this show, you claim that you were trying to get, as I understood it, a more beautiful sound. What do you mean with that?
Well, I hope to play not necessarily a more beautiful sound, though I would like to. Just say tone-wise, I would like to be able to produce a more beautiful sound. But now I'm primarily interested in trying to work what I have, what I know down into a more lyrical line. That's what I mean by beautiful, right? More lyrical, so to be, easily understood.
So it's interesting he talks about that because there's beauty in the tone, saxophone is thinking about vibrato, intonation, affectation of the sound, all these different things that you have, but him focusing on the lyrics and the lyricism, I think on these records with these great standard tunes, I think he had such a great, that's how he could just play those melodies so straight and so powerfully, so direct.
And so interesting that the way he qualifies that is like, I want to play more in a more lyrical way so that I can be more easily understood. That's a really interesting take.
Yes.
Like, I want to be more easily understood. I'm going to play more lyrically.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man.
Mission accomplished?
Yeah. It's really, really the North Star for all of us. Let's get to some categories, Peter.
Okay.
So Apex Moments, you have Coltrane solo on My Little Brown Book.
Yeah. Can we just check it out and then you can tell me if you...
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah. The way they just interacted.
Gorgeous. Yeah, Duke. I know.
And Duke's kind of spurred some of that on.
Yeah, Duke was a crazy comper.
Yeah.
If you ever look at any transcriptions.
Yeah, I love that solo. I think that's kind of where it's the intersection of like all the crazy stuff he can do. He's doing some of it, but it's super like direct and lyrical. But like he's almost letting Duke say, it's okay, you can go to some of that crazy kind of stuff. What do you have for your apex?
My apex moment is just the last few seconds of Lush Life. Just the way they end it. There's nothing super special about it, but I don't know. It always stands out to me, especially in that Johnny Hartman album, the way they end the tune. Can we hear a little bit of the end?
Let's do it.
Those whose lives are lonely too.
I don't know. There's something about it that just
It's so awesome.
really, I really love.
Boop, 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 bang.
That's
You talk about lyrical. Damn.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. I
Yeah.
love that so much. And I love the note that Johnny Hartman picks. I love what Trane does. I love what all of them are doing.
Sue you.
Sue me. Don't, please don't. Bespoke playlist title. If this were on a Spotify playlist, what would the name of the title of a possible playlist? I mean, we already have like Coffee House Stairs.
Right.
Which we don't want to
Well,
talk.
I'm already second guessing mine, so why don't you go first, and then we'll circle back to me.
I have a couple. I have the 1963 Baby Boom. You know what I'm talking about.
Boomer.
You know what I'm talking
Baby
about.
Boomer.
Because I think there were probably some kids born in late 63, early 64 that owe it to some of these records, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
And then I have Japanese whiskey commercial bangers.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. I've got Get On Board the Smooth Train, Trane 1963. But let's not settle in on that too much, because it's not one of my better ones.
If you played all of these on Spotify, what would be the up next? What would be a good up next?
Well, I think Kind of Blue.
Yeah.
You know, I know we mentioned a lot, but Sketches of Spain.
Good call.
In terms of like cinematic, atmospheric, thematic for sure.
It's a great call.
But also a great up next, if you love this, come for the ballads, stay for Crescent, which came out the next year. You know what I'm saying?
This should be on a poster. Peter Martin, come for the ballads, stay for the Crescent.
Now, you started out curious. Now you're in there. Crescent's your next step.
Now you're serious.
Serious.
Now you're, exactly.
Yeah. You're converted. You're Coltrane converted. So now it's time for Crescent. Great record from 1964.
I think probably my top choice for up next would be Nancy Wilson and Cannonball Adderley, especially off of the Johnny Hartman. I think those really pair nicely together.
Yep.
And then also Chet Baker Sings would be an obvious one. Again, a similar vibe, similar era. What about Quibble Bits, Peter? Anything to quibble with?
My only quibble bit is my usual one, the Van Gelder piano sound. I feel like McCoy is scrunched this way, scrunched that way, then triangulated, and then put into a little box.
Ditto.
You know what I mean?
They didn't even have computers to do that back in the day. They had to do that with microphones.
Yeah. But like I mentioned earlier, I do think that because of this idea of like, there's only so much you can fit into the stereo soundscape, right? Into the areas that we have coming at us from the speakers. So the piano can take over everything. I think that the drums is a 10 out of 10. I think Johnny Hartman's voice, 10 out of 10. I think Coltrane's sound on these Impulse recordings at Van Gelder Studios is like the perfect sound of everything. Jimmy Garrison. I think the piano is thin, and I think it's kind of at the expense of everything else being perfect, maybe. The thing is, I still, like, we're geeking out. It's not like we're not loving McCoy's
playing is so good.
It didn't ruin his playing.
No, and it sounds good in the mix, actually. Like when everybody's playing together, when McCoy's comping, it really works. When you played that McCoy solo with the rhythm section.
It was nice. It was tasty.
I mean, the solo's nice and tasty, but my heart drops a little bit.
It does.
Because compared to the drums, it's super weak.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Do you have any quibble bits?
I don't. The piano sound is definitely a ditto for me. But other than that, I really don't have any. All three of these are near perfect albums.
Yeah.
Snob-o-meter. How snobby is this?
I don't think this is very snobby. In fact, I put a 4, and now that I'm thinking it could easily be like a 2 or a 3 even. I mean, there's always a snobbiness with anything Coltrane, I think, because that's undeniable.
Yeah.
I mean, you can never be like, oh, Coltrane sucks, man. Everybody knows Coltrane's good. But I do think that the true jazz snobs are going to feel like these are some of the most commercially viable, most accessible records, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I think Coltrane's playing is super well presented here. So I don't know.
I almost put lower, so more towards like the accessible meter too, like a 2 or a 3. But it is Coltrane's. You know what it is? It's the truth, like we were talking about. Like his ability to cut through the truth is uncomfortable sometimes. The truth is not always easy to take down.
Yeah.
Because he has this incredibly honest sound. Sometimes it's harder than if it were like, say, someone like Ben Webster or Lester Young, right? That are going to give you a very syrupy, Sonny Rollins, like this really beautiful, big sound. Sometimes Coltrane's sound...
Coltrane, not beautiful.
No, absolutely gorgeous.
Got
the
it.
most beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. The most beautiful because it's a little bit more on the raw, honest side of
for
things.
sure.
I think it's great.
But wouldn't you say that these 3 records are some of his most, sonically, like in terms of his sound, because of the material and the way that he plays and wraps himself within this material, is some of the most accessible? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
It's still direct. It's still Trane, but it's still some of the easiest to access.
I think it's the most accessible for sure.
Yeah.
Is it better than Kinda Blue?
No, but I mean,
I have maybe.
I see
maybe
that.
it is.
I might switch. I might be equal with it. I mean, I got no problem with shifting this into there in terms of Apex Mountain or Desert Island Records.
I think these 3 albums that you picked out, Ballads, Duke Ellington, John Coltrane, and
I didn't pick them. They picked me.
No, and Johnny Hartman. I think if they would have come out as one album of like Coltrane plays ballads with these legends, better than Kinda Blue. But
maybe. So what about just the Hartman record? Because that would be seen as the greatest of these 3, I think, in terms of popularity.
Honestly, I think all 3 are pretty equal.
Yeah.
At least in my eyes. I think they're all very close.
Yeah.
And I think when you put them together like you have, it's pretty unstoppable.
Yeah.
Accouterments. Cover.
I give it a 9. I mean, all 3 covers are great. Classic Impulse records. There's nothing wrong with them.
Impulse killing covers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great.
Okay. So that was really fun.
That was fun, man. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was our first breaking into a couple of different records. Our own little bespoke curated playlist, if you will.
You put 2 horrible words right together. Bespoke curated playlist. Yeah, man. So maybe we go out on a ballad?
How about that? Yeah. You Don't Know What Love Is.
Yeah.
It's a nice one. That's a classic one.
Hey, give it up for Bob DeBoo on the bass, Caleb Kirby on the drums. Don't forget
do
about our incredible rhythm section.
Yeah.
And leave us a rating and review.
Oh, we'll go back to that.
Leave us
Gentlemen
a little...
or ladies agreement, if you know what that is. You
want a little gala.
Back in time. Good job, man.
Yeah.
I'll see you next time. Till next time.
You'll hear it.